a heartfelt namaste. I, Anuradha, would like to thank all of you for joining both, subscribing to both our channels, YouTube and Spotify. If you haven't subscribed to our Spotify channel, then please do, so that you can listen to all the videos in one go, anytime, any place. Today, we are going to talk on one of the topics that was put forward to us in our webinars, in the free webinars on retrograde, by one of the attendees, and he requested that we make videos on how to see on the practical applications of chart reading. So this is one such video that we dedicate to our attendee of the webinar. Today, we are going to talk about judging whether a planet who owns two houses, a good house and a bad house. So let's move into the definition of a bad house first. When a planet owns 3, 6, 8 and the 11th or the 12th house, the 11th house is good in many ways, but it's supposed to be the natural badaka. Also, the 11th house does give a lot of diseases, and not to forget greed. So this is also considered bad in certain ways. So we can include that also, or depending on your mindset, you can take it as an option. So when they own these houses, and also when they also own 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 10, these houses, then these houses which are known as the good houses and the bad houses, correspondingly they are owning these. For example, Jupiter for the Cancer Lagna is the owner of the 9th and the 6th house. So how would it function? In such a case, it is mentioned that they will give the results of both these houses, the 6th house and the 9th house. Manteshwar Rishi has a clause attached to it. In his book Faldipika, he writes that if this planet, in case we move on with that example that we're talking about, say Jupiter is sitting in a good house. In that case, it will give the results of the good house more and negligible results of the bad house. But if we look at it in a practical manner, it is subject to certain clauses. So what can that clause be? The law of house rulership, the first is that if a planet is ruling both a benefic and a malefic, it will give results of both these houses. Their influence is therefore mixed. It will be good for the positive house, and the results for the negative house will be negative. However, as I told you, that Manteshwar Rishi has a qualification attached to it, and that is, if it is sitting in a good house, it will give the results of a good house. If it's sitting in a bad house, it will give the results of a bad house. It is therefore very important to ascertain, but which sign is more stronger and which sign has more aspects, which sign has more planets sitting there. When we ascertain that, then the complete analysis that the planet owner will give more results of which house and how do we connect these two houses is something that we're going to see. So this plan here, where we need to understand where is the overall effect of that planet going to be seen, is important. So let us take up the chart of Osho. In Rajneesh Osho's chart, we were talking about the planet Jupiter. In our example, here also I take up the planet Jupiter. Jupiter, we all know, is exalted and retrograde in his charts. It's very strong as a planet. Now it owns the 8th house and the 11th house. The 11th house is good in many ways. It is good because it gives you name, fame, it gives you material wealth, it gives you a rise in life, it gives you an association which is very big. And in Rajneesh Osho's case, it definitely was working there. But there's another house that he owns, and that's the 8th house. The 8th house is all about bhukti, and it is also about moksha. So moksha means renunciation, or for that matter, leading into deep bhakti or devotion. And it is also the house which represents hope in terms of wanting, moving deep into desires, into lust and all these things. Osho's ashram was based on the principle that you would be moving into deep desires, satisfy your physical cravings to the extent that you move towards bhakti. Was it possible for everybody? Well, that's a matter that we all need to understand and see. But this is the major concept of his ashram, and the eighth house was very strongly operating in his case. Guru is a planet that is also the teacher, the guru, the mentor. And he was, because of a very strong guru in his chart, he was a mentor for many people. In fact, even after he passed away, people were influenced by his writings, by his audios. Guru, as we see it, works very fine in his chart. And the eighth house was the reason why he got that name, fame, big organization that he was able to form. And here we see that the connection between the third house, taking an initiative, having a dream, and giving, because the fulcrum of his existence here was more to do with the eighth house. So it produced the results of the 11th house. It's the basis. The bigger results come from the eighth house by the very fact that there are 5 planets sitting in the eighth house. The Lord of the Lagna, the Lord of the sixth house, the Lord of the eighth house, the Lord of the 7th house and the 12th house, giving him international name and fame and giving him a public standing. But the 8th house is also the house of sudden changes, and it can also be a banishment. It can also be the house of insults and humiliation. Right towards the end of his life, he was banished from many countries, European countries, and from the Western world. And he faced certain humiliations in his life because of certain events that occurred in his life. So the 8th house, as we see, was functioning more by the dint of placement of that guru or that Jupiter, owner of the 8th house, in one of the Trishadaya houses. There's another case that we can take up and work on. That case is that of Dhirubhai Ambani. In case of Dhirubhai Ambani's chart, we see that Mars is the lord of, again, 2 houses. Because the Lagna here is Sagittarius, Mars becomes the lord of the 5th house and the lord of the 12th house. Mars in itself is placed with Ketu in the sign of Leo and in Magha Nakshatra. Now, Dhirubhai Ambani established a very big empire, and he was also very famous. He was one of those people who rose to a steady place of name and fame and everlasting fame. So the 5th house is also the house of his practical knowledge, the knowledge that he acquired from his work, and he put it into practice. And the 12th house is the house of losses. The 12th house, we know, is also the house of foreign settlement. Incidentally, it was the first time he went abroad and he learned a lot of things and he settled down. So not that both the houses are not operating in this case, but the 5th house is a house which is operating more, because setting up a large enterprise by the dint of his hard work and wanting to rise high up in life. Here I'll put in a nakshatra element also and say that his Mars is very much situated in Puba Nakshatra, Purva Falguni Nakshatra, which gives him his fair share of luck. 9th house, as we also know, is Purva Punya. So here he did a great job on his Purva Punya, and he had a good life, as we can say. But the 5th house is working more strongly, and it is because of that 5th house that he got an international name and fame. So we can see that the planet Mars is giving the results of both the houses, but because he owns a good, he's sitting in a good house, it is because of the operation of a good house that the 12th house results are seen. And also we can see that in Rajneesh's case, because it is sitting in a bad house, or rather a Trishday house, so it gives the results of the 11th house because of the 8th house. That is something that we will be able to understand more and more as we go into more practical readings and understandings. Please do write to us and let us know how you found this video, your comments on the planets that own 2 houses in your charts and how they function. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on both our YouTube and Spotify channels. Till we meet with you again, stay safe. Thank you.
Please hit the bell icon for fresh updates. Don't forget to like, share, and comment on the videos, and please subscribe to our channel.